Can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat.
ESBR Boxing in association with Sharp Betting. We are back, myself and Paul Kelly. That means one thing and one thing only. We're here in preview mode and we are previewing British and Commonwealth bantamweight action in this video. But before we get to that, please like and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, engage with the content, leave comments, and all that sort of extra business. And that will help us inform our content as we go forward. But Paul, as mentioned, bantamweight action. And we're here, Charlie Edwards versus Andrew Cain. British and Commonwealth titles on the line. I suppose the question I want to ask you first and foremost, obviously both guys are well known. Charlie Edwards has been around a while. Andrew Cain, obviously that fight with Beluta recently as well. Both guys have kind of had a bit of a profile. Everyone know who they are. Question I want to ask really is about the world title scene up at bantamweight, Paul. So obviously we've got Nakatani, obviously Japanese fighters up there. That's Tsutsumi, Taki, all those sort of guys that are up there. I want to ask you the question: do you believe post this fight, Andrew Cain, Charlie Edwards, that either man could win a world title in that division? Do you think it's possible, Paul? Talk to me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always, mate. Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think this bantamweight division currently is completely dominated by four or five Japanese fighters. Nakatani probably being the most, the biggest name of them all. Um, oh, you know, we've said it before, and people might criticize us for being a casual or whatever, but like we can't sit here and say that we've watched extensive footage of every single one of those champions. Other than Nakatani, I can't sit here and say that I've watched each of those other Japanese champions. I haven't watched his last five fights or whatever. So that, in that sense, you're like, you don't know how good they are. But Charlie Edwards is obviously a former world champion himself, so we'll start with him. I think obviously I was at flyweight. He actually has, he's impressed me at bantamweight. I think there was a few questions asked about the Thomas Asomba fight. He came through that fairly well, won kind of comprehensively. But can he win a world title at bantamweight? Putting my neck on the line, I'm going to say no at this moment in time, mate. I hope he could do it, but I have my doubts. And similarly with Andrew Cain, what I would say about Andrew Cain is that yes, he had that one defeat to Beluta, but he's bounced back with what, four KO victories since then. Big puncher for a 118-pound fighter. He's got dynamite in those fists. You can tell he's only one of his victories hasn't been via stoppage, so he's clearly a big puncher. And if he was to stop Charlie Edwards here, for example, who's to say that he couldn't stop one of the other champions because he's clearly a big puncher. And even if he was down on the cards, he does have that equalizer. But again, gun to my head, I would probably say no. So without being totally negative towards both of these British fighters, the answer to your question it would be no. I cannot see either of these two really winning a world title at bantamweight.
You know what? I actually don't disagree with you. I actually fully agree. I think you look at some of the names of those guys, the Japanese fighters, and you think technically they're better than both these guys. I think, to be honest with you, and also like a fight like Nakatani, if you go with Nakatani, I bet Nakatani to beat either of these guys. I also think Charlie Edwards, 32 years old now. It just seems like a bit of a, it seems like maybe I don't see him sort of maybe fight. Well, I think maybe fighting for a world title, but not necessarily sort of bridging that gap in the next couple of years. They would need to bridge to actually win the world title. I also think you were kind of spot on there when you say about Andrew Cain obviously having that equalizer, having that power. So you put him in with someone that is every chance, if he lands on them, they could go. But I think you're looking at sort of puncher's chance. I think those guys, like you said, those guys that dominate the division, those Japanese guys are frankly just too kind of good for that, essentially, to be caught in that way. So no, not really. I wouldn't make either of them favourite. I don't think either of them will become world champion. But let's just pick up a little bit on that power, I suppose, the power disparity between the two men. You mentioned it there absolutely correctly that Andrew Cain has stopped all but one of the opponents that he's fought, that he's beaten. We've also seen him go, obviously that Beluta was 10 rounds, split decision loss. We see that he can sort of go distance as well. Charlie Edwards, on the other hand, doesn't have the same power. 20 wins, 7 KOs. Like you mentioned, has been campaigning at lighter weights as well. I suppose the question I'm going to ask you really is, do you think there's a possibility that Cain could outbox Edwards? Like we know, obviously Edwards, like Sonny, Charlie, they're obviously technically very good. They can obviously move. Do you think there's a chance that Cain can outbox him? Do you also think there's maybe a chance that Edwards could stop Andrew Cain, or do you see it really, without giving away your prediction, do you see it either being Edwards points or Cain KO?
Yeah, man, I think on without getting, obviously you can dive a little bit more into it, and I don't think that's the only way both men can win, but straight away when you look at it, I don't know about you, the first thing I'm thinking is, yeah, this is Charlie Edwards points or an Andrew Cain stoppage. Like in my head, they're the two most likely outcomes. Who's to say that Andrew Cain couldn't outbox Charlie Edwards? He's clearly, he is a very capable fighter and very good boxer himself. But I think Charlie Edwards, does he maybe have the edge? Or have we maybe just not seen Andrew Cain properly use his boxing skill and IQ? Who knows? Andrew Cain might be a better boxer than Charlie Edwards, and we just haven't seen it yet because he hasn't needed to show it. In a sense, what I would say is he was outboxed by Iona Baluta that time, but Baluta has, we've seen him cause, multiple British and Irish fighters. He's given them fits over the years, so that's kind of no disgrace there. I think he's clearly bounced back from that victory as well, that defeat as well, Andrew Cain. I think, put it this way, to answer your question, mate, yes, a long-winded answer. But I'm going to say Andrew Cain, his not only, but most likely for me, method of victory is via stoppage. And if he doesn't stop Charlie Edwards or get him down or knock him down, I think Charlie Edwards wins this on points. I can't see it the other way around. I can't see Cain winning on points, really, unless he maybe gets a knockdown or two. And equally, I can't see Charlie Edwards stopping Andrew Cain.
Yeah, I definitely on the last point, definitely totally agree. I don't see Charlie Edwards stopping Andrew Cain. I think you look at Charlie Edwards as well. He's been stopped, obviously, by Casemiro and Martinez, but obviously that was a no contest when he was down when he took the shot. So he's only really been stopped in that sense by a sort of elite, like world class, like championship level guys. So I think I just don't see the chance. I think Andrew Cain could stop him. He's got the power to stop him, but I'd be surprised necessarily if he is able to do that. I also don't think that Charlie Edwards has got the power. We haven't seen him stop many people, to be honest with you. I don't think he's got the power to stop Andrew Cain either. So for me, it's like you say, I totally agree. It's either Charlie Edwards points or a case of can Cain land that equaliser on Charlie Edwards. But we're going to go to predictions now, Paul. And in fact, to be honest with you, I've probably erroneously already kind of given my prediction. So I'm going to go first on this time, just to give myself, people say, I don't show chivalry very often. This is maybe a coward of doing it because I'm quite confident in this pick. I'm going to go Charlie Edwards points for this one, Paul. I think just looking at the kind of level of fighter that he's been in with, the fact that he's obviously so used to going the distance. Obviously, like I said, we've seen Andrew Cain's had to go 10 rounds with Baluta before, but Charlie Edwards, by not having the sort of equaliser that Andrew Cain's got, has gone, obviously the distance significantly more times, more used to it. And I just feel like I was quite impressed. There were a lot of question marks, as you mentioned, over before he went into that fight with Thomas and Somba. And I thought he looked good in that fight against Thomas and Somba, European title fight as well. And I also feel that Andrew Cain's maybe around that level anyway, sort of European level. Whereas I think Charlie Edwards has got the capacity to sort of compete at world level, even if he's not going to necessarily win a world title. So I think it's going to be sort of a 116, 112 Charlie Edwards for me. I think Andrew Cain is good enough and obviously conditioned enough to pick up rounds here and there, but I think Charlie Edwards by points is my prediction, Paul. Do you agree, Paul? Do you disagree? How are we looking at it for this one?
I totally concur, mate. I think Charlie Edwards via decision. That's where my head's at as well. It would be difficult. It is in Liverpool. Andrew Cain, obviously from Liverpool. Hope that we don't get any dodgy scorecards. Fingers crossed. We have seen it before all over the country and all over the world. But let's hope that if it does go the distance, whoever wins it gets a fair shake. And I do think Charlie Edwards wins. I think Charlie Edwards wins, and I can't really disagree with your scorecard there either, mate. I think it'll be close enough, but fairly. There won't be any questions over who's won. Basically, put it that way. I think Charlie Edwards wins at some points. So you know what's going to happen now, mate. We've both said that, and Andrew Cain's going to win via emphatic stoppage, isn't he?
It is, but the glory about that is that people will be in our comments, Paul. They'll hopefully be engaging with the content, they'll be liking and subscribing, and they will be giving us pelters for it. But that's all the nature of the game. You put your neck on the line like this, occasionally you're going to get it wrong. So that's all there is to say about it, really. But guys, let us know in the comments really whether you agree or disagree, and I suppose also kind of how you see maybe the scene at bantamweight, and also where sort of Charlie Edwards fits into that, if you've also got him as favourite to win this. But Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me, guys. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we're obviously up and ahead with more previews for you in the upcoming weeks. Thank you very much again.